Hello everyone, welcome to my YouTube channel Profoundly Physicist. I am Shweta. So in today's video we will start quantum mechanics first topic, which is wave particle duality, and from this particular topic we are going to complete photoelectric effect in today's video. Along with the theory of the photoelectric effect, we will discuss very important MCQs from this topic and few numericals as well, and at the end of the video there will be 2 practice questions for all of you. So those students who give the correct answers of these questions, their name will be posted on the channel's community. So as you all know that we have started MCQ series, and that also from the unit quantum mechanics. So that's why I have decided that along with the MCQs I will cover theory as well, and more effectively this time, and covering all the pending topics of the syllabus. So there must be one question will be arising in all of yours mind, that why in English? So the students who belong to the non-Hindi speaking states, they were continuously, I was getting the response from them that ma'am, please upload the lectures in English as well. So I have decided to upload the lectures in Hindi as well as in English language. But I want to assure you one thing, that the content will be first uploaded in Hindi. If that Hindi lecture is available on the channel, and then I will re-upload the content in English. But if I am going to upload any content for the first time on the channel, then I will definitely upload first it in Hindi and then re-upload it in English language. So today is going to be a new day for our channel, because along with the Hindi lectures, English lectures are also going to be available on the channel. So to watch today's video in Hindi language, you can check the description. You will get the link over there. So now without wasting time, let's move to today's topic. Before studying quantum mechanics, we should know that why there is a need to study quantum mechanics over classical mechanics. So classical mechanics was challenged on 2 major fronts. First is a microscopic domain, second is relativistic domain. So let's understand these 2 domains in detail. Classical physics, the description of physics that existed before the theory of relativity and quantum mechanics, describes many aspects of nature at macroscopic scale, while quantum mechanics explain the aspects of nature at atomic and subatomic scale, for which classical mechanics is insufficient. So now you get to know that why we need to study quantum mechanics, because classical mechanics is only applicable to the particle at macroscopic scale, and when it comes to the particle at atomic and subatomic scale, classical mechanics becomes insufficient. It won't be able to explain those concepts. So that's why there was a need for quantum mechanics to come into the picture. So let's take a look at relativistic domain now. So when we studied special theory of relativity, we got to know the concept of relativistic mechanics. We know that the Newtonian mechanics wasn't applicable to those concepts like time dilation, length contraction. All these concepts were just only explained on the basis of relativistic quantum mechanics. So from that we get to know that the Newtonian mechanics sees its validity at a very high speed. So by very high speed we means that when the speed is comparable with the speed of light. So in that case only relativistic quantum mechanics is applicable. So that's why there were the 2 major concepts, 2 major domains which were challenged, because the classical mechanics wasn't applicable to these 2 domains. So that's why there was a need to study quantum mechanics. Also, classical physics failed to explain several microscopic phenomena such as black body radiation, photoelectric effect, Bohr's hydrogen atom, and Compton effect. So all these phenomena are explained by considering the quantum concept, and in today's video we are going to discuss photoelectric effect in detail. Photoelectric effect is discovered by Hertz, and this effect provides a direct confirmation for the energy quantization of light. So if we split the name of photoelectric, we will get to know that what photoelectric effect is all about. Photo stands for the action of light, and electric stands for electrons. So to sum up it in single definition, the ejection of electrons material by the action of light is called the photoelectric effect. So the ejection of electrons from a material by the action of light is called photoelectric effect, and the emitted electrons are called as photoelectrons because by the method of their production they are termed as photoelectrons. So next question arises, which metals and non-metals show photoelectric effect? So the answer to this is that most metallic surfaces show photoelectric effect with UV light. Alkali metals like lithium, sodium, potassium, rubidium and cesium show photoelectric effect with visible light. So now let's study the experimental setup of photoelectric effect. So as you can see, it consists of an evacuated glass tube which is having a photosensitive plate C and another metal plate A. C acts as cathode and A acts as anode. The C is coated with a photosensitive material. Light from a monochromatic source falls on this photosensitive plate. So since the plate A is maintained at the positive potential with respect to the plate C, so as soon as the electrons are emitted from the cathode, they are attracted toward the anode, and the emission of the electron causes flow of electric current in the circuit. So we have commutator here. The role of the commutator is that the polarity of the plates C and A can be reversed by the use of commutator. So this question can be asked in exam, that what is the role of commutator in the photoelectric effect? So as soon as the incident light of energy h nu falls on the metal surface, electrons are ejected with kinetic energy k. So what will be the value of this kinetic energy k? So k is equal to h nu minus w. So w here means work function of the metal. So we are very much familiar with the term binding energy, which means the energy required to release an electron from the metal surface. But here work function terms come. So work function means the minimum energy. It is the same as binding energy, but we can say it is the minimum binding energy, right? So it can be termed like the minimum energy required to liberate an electron from the metal surface. And how work function is equal to h nu naught, that we will study later in this video. This is the laws of photoelectric emission, or we can say the conclusions of the photoelectric effect experiment. So first is, if the frequency of the incident radiation is smaller than the metal's threshold frequency, no electron can be emitted. See, every metal has the minimum frequency which is termed as a threshold frequency, and if the incident radiation frequency nu is less than that threshold frequency of the metal, in that case no electron can be emitted. So we can say if nu is less than nu naught, in that case photoelectric emission cannot occur. Second point is, no matter how low the intensity of the incident radiation, electrons will be ejected instantaneously the moment the frequency of the radiation exceeds the threshold frequency. So second point is, when nu becomes greater than nu naught, in that case the photoelectric emission begins. It does not depend upon the intensity of the incident radiation, but it depends upon the frequency of the incident radiation. Right? So as soon as nu, which is the incident radiation's frequency, it becomes greater than the threshold frequency, in that case the photoelectric emission begins. Let's check third point. Now the role of the intensity comes. See, the third point is, at any frequency above nu naught, the number of electrons ejected increases with the intensity of the light, but does not depend on the light's frequency. So for the photoelectric emission to occur, we require the incident frequency to be greater than that of the threshold frequency. But as soon as it becomes greater than the threshold frequency, then it no longer depends upon light frequency, but the ejection increases as soon as the intensity of light, right? Now the role of the intensity of light comes into the picture. So we can say photoelectric current varies with intensity. As the intensity increases, photoelectric current also increases because the number of ejected electrons. First point is the kinetic energy of the ejected electrons depends on the frequency but not on the intensity of beam. So these are the 4 laws of photoelectric emission. One more point which can be added is that the photoelectric emission is instantaneous. There is no time lag between the light falling on the cathode and the ejection of electrons. This process is instantaneous. It almost takes a time of 10 raised by minus 9 seconds. So these are the 4 laws of photoelectric emission. But the main thing is that the classical mechanics failed to explain these 4 laws, and the photoelectric effect is explained by Einstein, which is termed as the Einstein's theory of photoelectric effect. So now let's understand what is the Einstein explanation of photoelectric effect. So to explain photoelectric effect, Einstein made a few assumptions. First is a light wave consists of packets of energy called photons. So here comes the particle nature of light waves, that light have wave as well as particle nature, and the particle nature of the packets of energy we can say are termed as photons. Second is one photon is completely absorbed by one electron in the photocathode. So when the incident radiation falls on the cathode in the form of the packet of energy called photons, one photon is completely absorbed by one electron. So now let's understand that how the energy of photon is utilized by an electron. H nu is equal to W plus half mv square. H nu stands for the energy of a photon, and its energy is utilized by an electron in 2 ways. A part of the energy is used as a work function, means to liberate an electron from the metal surface, and the second part of the energy is utilized as its kinetic energy, means which causes an electron to move. So half mv square is equal to h nu minus w. So when work function is minimum, when we substitute work function is equal to minimum work function, w equal to w naught, then we can say the kinetic energy will become maximum, right? Because we know that the energy of the photon is utilized in 2 ways, one part by the work function, another part by the kinetic energy. If work function is minimum, then the maximum energy is in the form of kinetic energy, right? So when work function is equal to minimum work function, then we can replace kinetic energy by maximum kinetic energy, and we can rewrite the expression like half mv square maximum is equal to h nu minus w naught. Here w naught stands for the minimum work function. So when nu is equal to nu naught, means the incident radiation frequency is equal to the threshold frequency. In that case, not even the fastest electron can reach the anode. No electron will be ejected. In that case, we can substitute kinetic energy as 0, and h nu will be written like h nu naught minus w naught. So here comes the formula for the minimum work function, which is w naught is equal to h nu naught. As I told you earlier while discussing the definition of work function, that we will later discuss the formula of the work function. So this is how the formula of work function comes. So half mv square maximum is equal to h nu minus h nu naught. This is the Einstein's photoelectric equation, and on the basis of this equation, all the laws of photoelectric emission can be explained. So this equation is very important because many MCQs and numericals can be formed on the basis of this equation. So let's recall all the 4 laws of photoelectric emission. First says intensity is proportional to photoelectric current. So intensity stands for more number of photons falling on cathode. As more number of photons are falling on cathode, more numbers of electron will be liberated, and correspondingly the photoelectric current increases. So that's why you can say that intensity is directly proportional to the photoelectric current. Second law is the maximum velocity of an electron depends upon frequency, and this is pretty much clear from the equation. Vmax is related to frequency. Third is nu less than nu naught. So when the frequency of radiation is less than threshold frequency, no current flows, right? So this can be seen from the equation. If nu is less than nu naught, then correspondingly what will happen? So when nu is less than nu naught, see from the equation, kinetic energy will become negative, which indicates no electron can be ejected. So that's why we can say no current will flows in the circuit. So next is that photoelectric emission is an instantaneous process, and this can be explained by considering the particle nature of light. Since light is in the form of energy packets called as photons, since each electron immediately absorb a photon and then the immediate emission occurs, so that's why we can say that there is a very less time lag, that is of the order of 10 raised by minus 8 second between the absorption and the emission. So that's why we termed photoelectric emission as an instantaneous process. So let's solve few MCQs on the basis of photoelectric effect, and at the end of the video there are 2 questions for you. You need to answer these questions, and the students who will get the correct answer of these questions, their name will be posted at channel's community. So I will link the PDF of these MCQs in the description and will also upload on my Telegram channel. So let's start with first MCQs, which is, on which part of the photoelectric cell does the radiation strikes? First option is cathode, second is anode, third is emitter, fourth is radiation does not strike on the photoelectric cell. So easy question. The correct answer for this is option A, cathode, right? The radiation strikes on the photosensitive plate, which is termed as cathode. So A option is correct. Question number 2 is, which of the following gases are filled inside the photoelectric cells? First option is carbon dioxide, second is nitrogen, third is neon, fourth is oxygen. So the correct answer for this is option C, neon. So the gases which are usually filled in the photoelectric cells are inert gases, which are neon or argon. So the correct option for this question is option C. Question number 3 is, what is the effect of intensity on the stopping potential? First is, as intensity increases, stopping potential increases linearly. Second is, as intensity increases, stopping potential decreases linearly. Third is, as intensity decreases, stopping potential increases exponentially. Fourth is no effect. So the correct option for this question is option fourth, which says no effect. We know that the intensity has no influence on the stopping potential. That's why we can say there will be no effect of the intensity on the stopping potential. So we know that the stopping potential only depends on the frequency of the incident radiation. It does not depend upon the intensity, but on the frequency of the incident radiation. Question number 4 is, how does the intensity affect the photoelectric current? So how the intensity varies with photoelectric current? First option is, as intensity increases, it increases the photoelectric current. Second is, as intensity increases, the photoelectric current decreases. Third is, as the intensity decreases, the photoelectric current becomes twice. And fourth is, it has no effect. So the correct option for this is option A. We know that as we increase the intensity of the incident radiation, correspondingly photoelectric effect also, photoelectric current we can say, also increases. So while explaining laws of photoelectric emission, we have discussed this fact that when intensity increases, by intensity we mean that the number of photons are increasing. So as intensity increases, more number of photons are falling on cathode, and correspondingly more number of electrons will be ejected and photoelectric current increases. So option A is correct. Question number 5 is, during Einstein's photoelectric experiment, what changes are observed when the frequency of the incident radiation is increased? So when you increase the incident radiation's frequency, what happens? A option is, the value of saturation current increases. Second is no effect. Third is, the value of stopping potential increases. Fourth is, the value of stopping potential decreases. So while discussing the question for the stopping potential, we know this thing that the stopping potential depends on frequency of the incident radiation. So when we increase the frequency of incident radiation, kinetic energy of the emitted electron increases. So that's why more repulsive force is required to stop these electrons, and hence stopping potential also increases. Stopping potential stands for the potential which is required to stop the electrons from reaching the anode. So the correct option will be C, which says the value of the stopping potential increases when the frequency of incident radiation is increased. So I hope you got the point. Next question is, what is the time lag between the incidence of photons and the ejection of photoelectrons? So the correct option here is option B, that the time lag is between 10 raised by minus 5 second to 10 raised by minus 9 second. Approximately we say that the time lag is of the order of 10 raised by minus 8 second. So B option will be correct here. So next question is, the work function of lithium is 2.5 electron volt. The maximum wavelength of light that can cause the photoelectric effect in lithium is. So this is the question which I have posted on channel's community also. So let's understand how to solve this question. So we have studied the formula for work function in today's video, which is W naught is equal to H nu. H stands for Planck's constant. Nu naught can be written like C upon lambda naught, and lambda naught here indicates the maximum wavelength, because work function is W naught stands for the minimum work function, so correspondingly lambda naught will be the maximum wavelength. So just by substituting the value of H, Planck's constant, C stands for the velocity of light, and W naught, we will get the value of maximum wavelength, which is equal to 4980 angstrom. So option B is correct. Next question is, light of wavelength 3500 angstrom is incident on two metals A and B. Which metal will yield more photoelectrons if their work functions are 5 electron volt and 2 electron volt? So work function of two metals 5 electron volt and 2 electron volt are given. We need to identify that which metal will yield more photoelectrons if the incident light's wavelength is 3500 angstrom. So the wavelength of incident radiation is equal to 3500 angstrom, and in meters it will be written 3.5 into 10 raised by minus 7 meter. So the energy of incident photons we can calculate from this. E is equal to h nu, and which will be written like hc by lambda. By substituting the value for Planck's constant, velocity of light and lambda, we get the energy of incident photon equal to 3.536 electron volt. Since for metal A the work function is 5 electron volt, and for metal B work function is 2 electron volt, and the photon of incident radiation is having the energy 3.5 electron volt. So we know this fact that the work function is the minimum energy required to liberate an electron from the metal surface. So with energy 3.53 electron volt, incident photon cannot emit electron from metal A, whose work function is 5 electron volt, which is very high than the energy of the incident radiation. So clearly we can say that only metal B will yield photoelectrons. So the correct option for this is option B. So now is the time for a task for all of you. These are the two questions. You need to solve these questions and comment your answer in the comment box of this video. First question is, what is the energy of the emitted photoelectrons if the light of frequency 1 into 10 raised by 15 Hz is incident on a sodium target whose work function is 2.5 electron volt? Second question is, the work function of metal A is twice the work function of metal B. How will be their threshold frequencies related? So that's all in today's video. I hope you all really enjoyed the video, and if that is so, like the video, share with your friends, and don't forget to subscribe my video if you're watching the channel for the first time. Thank you so much.